Good morning, everyone. Virgo Triad here. It is January 17th of 2018. And the reason for our little golfer guy who is got the eyes that of evilness is because today I'm going to be doing scam stings. Now, the reason for this little series here, which will be quite short, I hope anyway, is because there are some really strange and rebuffed scams that are coming out in 2018. And I actually experienced one of them personally yesterday. This one is particularly insidious, so I want to take some extra time with it to make sure that everyone knows about it. Now, most of us have grandparents that are either biological grandparents or people that are elderly that we love, like their grandparents to us. And this scam targets those individuals. Now, across the street from me is a little man. He's 77 years old. He's got some problems with his hearing, and he is a heart patient, and I check on him 3 times a day. It just so happened that yesterday, when I went over there, was on the phone. And he was on the phone with a scammer. The scammer had contacted him claiming that he was his grandson. Now, the funny thing about this is that my neighbor doesn't have any grandchildren. As a matter of fact, he doesn't have any children either. He only has a very close friend that is about 30 years younger than him. And because apparently he has placed this person as his beneficiary on his AARP paperwork, it appears that AARP is the guilty culprit here of selling the information, and this is how these scammers are buying these phone numbers in order to scam the elderly. Now, from what I understand, after contacting the FBI, this scam was very big in 2011, 2012, and then apparently it stopped for several years, but it's picking back up again because I found out last night that another woman down the street had reported to my neighbor that she also had gotten the phone call, and she wasn't as lucky. Now, the grandparent scam is being reported on by the FBI. I will include the link in the description. But let me go ahead and read to you what they have said about what the grandparent scam is. You're a grandparent and you get a call or an email from someone who identifies himself as your grandson. I've been arrested in another country, he says, and need money wired quickly to pay my bail. And oh, by the way, don't tell my mom or dad because they'll only get upset. This is an example of what comes to be known as the grandparent scam, yet another fraud that preys on the elderly, this time by taking advantage of their love and concern for their grandchildren. The grandparent scam has been around for a few years. Our Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3, has been receiving reports about it ever since 2008, but the scam and scam artists have become more sophisticated. Thanks to the internet and social networking sites, a criminal can sometimes uncover personal information about their targets, which makes the impersonators more believable. For example, the actual grandson may mention on his social networking site that he's a photographer who often travels to Mexico. When contacting the grandparents, the phony grandson will say he's calling from Mexico, where someone stole his camera equipment and passport. Now, let me mention to you and interject here. This is just my own notice of what happened yesterday on this call. There is absolutely no way that social media is the way that my neighbor got caught up in this scam. Clearly, his number was purchased through a place that had additional information on his beneficiary, his friend, we'll call him Tim. The reason that I know that for sure is because he doesn't know how to use a computer. So he has absolutely no personal information on the internet at all. I know that these lists are being purchased, and the only thing that we could come up with was that it was from his recent AARP insurance that he had submitted to, which makes sense because that was when he added Tim as the beneficiary. So I just want to make sure everyone is aware that not every company that you assume is going to hold your personal information secure is actually doing that. Now, I'm not accusing AARP of selling this information necessarily. It's possible that they could have been hacked or something of that sort, but it's very obvious to me that that had to have been where this information came from. Now, the most common scenarios of this, according to the FBI, are a grandparent receives a phone call or sometimes an email from a grandchild. If it's a phone call, it's often late at night or early in the morning when most people aren't thinking as clearly. Usually, the person claims to be traveling in a foreign country and has gotten into a bad situation, like being arrested for drugs, getting into a car accident, or being mugged, and needs money wired ASAP, and the caller doesn't want his or her parents told. Sometimes, instead of the grandchild making the phone call, the criminal presents to be an arresting officer, a lawyer, or a doctor at a hospital, or some other party. And we've also received complaints about the phony grandchildren talking first and then handing the phone over to an accomplice to further spin the fake tale. We've also seen military families victimized. After pursuing a soldier's social networking site, a con artist will contact the soldier's grandparents, sometimes claiming that a problem came up during military leave that requires money to address. While it's commonly called the grandparent scam, criminals may also claim to be a family friend, a niece or a nephew, or another family member. Okay, what to do if you have been scammed? The financial losses in these cases, well, they can be substantial for an individual, usually several $1,000s per victim. Typically don't meet the FBI's financial thresholds for opening an investigation. We recommend contacting your local authorities or state consumer protection agency if you think you've been victimized. We also suggest you file a complaint with the IC3, which not only forwards complaints to the appropriate agencies, but also collates and analyzes the data, looking for common threads that link complaints and help identify the culprits. Okay, so let me interject here. Now, I told you that my neighbor got a visit from the other elderly lady that lives down the street. She was not as lucky, did fall prey to it as she has a grandchild in the military overseas, and she lost $2,500. So please, if you have a grandparent or an older person that you love, make sure that they know about this scam. It's particularly insidious. I cannot stand people that prey on the elderly and the weak. It drives me absolutely out of my mind. So I'm going to be doing more of these stings that will show up on my channel over the next couple of days. I am very concerned about some of the things that I have actually heard and some of the information that is poured into me with regards to new spins and new twists on stings. That some of them are older and people already know about, but this is a new twist on them to make them more believable. And some of them have gotten so scary, it's almost impossible for someone in the know to even be aware of. So I find this particular addition to my channel to be very important, and I hope that you all will feel the same. Hope everyone is having a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.